So I think we're live. Excellent, excellent. So what I want to talk about today is I wanted to talk about local businesses running ads on Google. So there's different types of ways that we can run ads. So we can do it locally, we can do it nationally, or we can do it internationally. So the focus is on local service or e-commerce. So things like plumbers, electricians, florists, businesses that are local to an area. So the way we kind of differentiate that is through, say, you got a radius, a targeting of 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 miles, or through a county. So you're targeting locally around your location, and it's normally, it'd be potentially is going to be around, say you've got a location, they say a shop, say a florist, or some sort of business. You can target around that area, and some of the things that we can do to improve what we're doing already. So say we're running ads and we want to better our result, get more results. So things we can do is add extensions, assets. So what this does is it gives us more real estate. So when we're running our ads, sometimes you see ads that are small, and sometimes you see ads that have got a lot of things going on. They've got call assets, they've got extensions, and it's quite simple to do that within the Google ads. You just go to assets and click on the different assets. But the one that I want to focus on today is the one that isn't spoken about often, and it's something that I'm going to put a video out either today or tomorrow, is the Google Maps. Probably one of the highest intent places that we can actually, not guarantee, but the highest intent that you can know that the chances of getting a lead is going to be extremely high, or some sort of business from the Google Maps. Why? Because people are searching, they're coming to the maps, they're going to see your sponsored link, and then from there they're going to click on it. They're going to look at your website, or they're going to click on get directions to your location, which is about as high intent as you're going to get within Google Ads. So the way that we can do this is by searching for. So if you're searching for something locally, what do you normally do? You're going to Google and you'll put in, say, plumbers near me or plumbers location. But when we're searching, Google will always give recommendations. So I'm just looking at a screen, and I've just put in plumbing. Let's put in plumbing near. So if you put in plumbers near me or near your location, Google will then bring up a screen with other recommendations. And by the way, those recommendations like plumbers near me, plumbers in your area geolocation, plumbers near us, plumbers 24/7, emergency plumbers, they're going to be quite high intent. Plumbers near me, open now. I'm just looking at what it's coming up with. Some of these are going to be good basis to base your keyword themes around if you're a local service-based industry. Something that not a lot of people talk about is the recommendations that Google gives. They're going to be the highest intent, and probably great ways that you could potentially build out ad groups if you're looking to start building out, Google ads based around keyword themes. So great recommendations that we can potentially add into our targeting for our local service-based industry. So there's a number of different places, but this is one of them that I always look at to see what Google recommends, because why not go with what we know works? And they wouldn't be showing these recommendations unless they worked. They're going to be high intent. Yeah, they're going to be maybe a little bit more expensive, but then if you put that into the keyword planner, we can then build around that. But anyway, that's off to a tangent. What I want to talk about is Google Maps. So you can show Google Maps within your Google ads. The only caveat to this is you don't have control. Nobody has control over when you'll actually see these maps being shown. So Google is constantly testing. That's why sometimes when you see a screen share, your screen might not be quite the same as somebody else's if you're looking at search-based results within Google. So say you search for something, you may see a different kind of image within the Google ads. But Google Maps are such a fantastic way because, like I said before, they're high intent. People are going to search, they're going to see the map, they're going to see the location, and it just gives you a higher probability. Remember, what we're trying to do is make sure the intent is there. So somebody clicking on to get directions or to get to your website on a Google map is about as high as you're going to get within Google Ads. So how do we actually set these up? It's quite simple. So what we need to do is make sure we've got a Google My Profile set up. And then from there, if you're not sure how to do that, there's Google documentation on that. And then from there, once that's up and running, we then connect that to our Google ads, and you can simply do that just by connecting. There'll be a video out on this, like I said, today or tomorrow, which actually runs through the whole process. But I want to talk about the missed opportunities that I see with a lot of local service-based industries that are not using Google Maps. Once you do that, you then add it in at the assets. You then look to add in the location targeting. And then once it's added in, then Google will start promoting that through your ads. As long as it's all connected, the Google profile, you've connected it and then added in as an asset. If you do this, you're going to, like I said, see some very, very interesting data, which potentially could see some fantastic conversions coming through for you, or whatever your main goal is going to be. Now, one of the misconceptions with Google My Maps was, let me just, I'm just going to look at something. So a lot of people thought within networks that the search network was the place when you clicked on to that Google My Maps, or map packs as we call them, were shown. That's incorrect. So that was one of the myths that was going around Google, the Google community. And that's why it's one of those things, always kind of try and find the information for yourself. A lot of what you hear is going to be rumor. And I think we just need to kind of dig in ourselves and actually find out that if this misinformation is correct. And that was one of the bits of misinformation a few years ago that was going around, that the map packs was in the network, search networks, and it wasn't. It was the way to do it is the way I've explained, and it's just a fantastic way that we can promote our local business. Now, sticking with local businesses, once you've created the map pack, you've connected it, you've got it up and running. The keywords that you're looking for, like I mentioned, when you click on a search in Google, it will give you some ideas. You've got to make sure that the keywords that you're targeting. So say, for instance, let's jump to something different, plumbing, electrician. Let's go to a florist. So if you're a florist, you're going to want terms, say florist in your area. So if you're based in, Caversham or Reading or wherever you are, and again, it doesn't matter, if you're wherever part of the world you're in, have the keyword. So the service and then the location that you want to be searched for, and then from there you can build it out. Plumbing, florist near me is going to be another one. Florist opening times. Just do your keyword research, have a look at what Google has recommended, and then from there you can build out your campaigns based upon what you're seeing. And that's the keywords that you would actually implement into your your keyword targeting for Google Ads. And remember, on top of all this, we still need to be doing our daily, our weekly audits for our Google search campaigns. Things like, negative keywords, adding in search terms, the structure of the campaign. Are we going max clicks? So let me jump onto bidding strategies as well. So as we're talking about service-based industries, I run a lot of service-based industries for plumbers and electricians. And sometimes the CPCs can be ridiculous. CPCs cost per click. So how much is it cost per click? And you can see cost per clicks are like 30, 40, 50 pounds, dollars. It could be crazy amounts. So if you want to generate 10 clicks a day and get 30 conversions a month as a minimum for your business, and your budget is say 30 a day and your cost per click average is 30 a day, then you're only going to generate one click. So you got to think, what's the maths? How much budget based on the maths from Google can I implement, knowing that I need to get 10 clicks a day? So as an advertiser, especially if you're a beginner, you've got to understand that we don't have to go deep into maths. And I just sometimes people do go very kind of integral into maths and what the numbers mean, which is fantastic, especially for e-commerce. But for service-based industries, you need to understand some basic kind of working backwards, thinking, okay, if my cost per click is say 30 and my budget's 30 a day, then my budget will only allow me one click per day, and then I'm done for that day. Then the next day it's going to be the same thing. You might generate 2 clicks, you might have a cost per click of say 12, and then another one of say 18, and then suddenly your budget's gone again. So remember, cost per click, you need to be looking at how much budget you have. If you want 10 clicks a day, and the reason you want 10 clicks a day minimum is because you want the information to come at you from Google so you can optimize your headlines, your descriptions, add in negative keywords. So we've got to be careful with what we're doing with the intent or the keywords that we're choosing based on the maths that Google's providing. So remember, make sure that you have enough budget and you can then run that based on the cost per click. Now, going back to the bidding strategy, as I mentioned, so starting with the max clicks is absolutely fine, but you can use something called a CPC strategy where you're capping the cost per click. So you're saying to Google, I want to cap what my cost per click is, and then restrict that, and then find a different way of kind of structuring the account. You don't necessarily also have to if you're seeing keywords, those high intent keywords, you can find other keywords based around the intent. Remember, Google isn't about the actual keyword itself, it's about the intent around that keyword. And if you're running say for instance, you've got broad terms in there, then Google's going to give you the volume. You're going to control that through negative keywords. And as you're seeing search terms coming in, you're going to add them in as exact. Now, if you're seeing a high cost per click, you can add in some more exact terms because you want to make sure that you're firing for a number of different search terms, because you don't want too much volume, because you're going to see a lot of wastage there because of the cost per click. So remember, the bidding strategy is depending on the maths, the cost per click, and then from there you can work backwards. And then on top of all this, we can add things like dynamic keyword insertion, where we're making sure we're staying relevant, looking at quality score. Quality score is another interesting aspect. I get a lot of people asking me about quality score. What I'm looking for quality score, I want to get a 5 out of 10 minimum. So if I'm getting 2s, 3s, or 4s, then potentially I know I've got an issue. That could be my ad copy, that could be my landing page, website, that could be a number of different factors. So we need to address that. And again, we can look at the metrics within Google, but what we're looking for, or what I'm looking for, is 5 out of 10. So what happens with the 5 out of 10 is that I know if we're getting 6, 7, and 8, that's even better. But if we're getting a 5 out of 10, I know at the auction, because we're basing this at the auction to know that we're going to compete against other businesses and we're going to get the bid at a lower rate. So they're going to pay more, we're going to pay less based on the quality score. So we want a 5 out of 10, and then I'm good with that. But if we've got that through a number of keywords, then that's Google's way of saying, actually, you're on the right track. And if you've got that, then again, you're off to the races. So combine all of that with your weekly optimization, Google Maps, understanding the structure, understanding the maths. The maths is so important. Most people don't actually run the ads looking at the maths. So they're targeting certain areas. Again, if it's too expensive in certain areas, you can dial it in. You can just geo target certain other areas that maybe are a little bit cheaper. Like I said, I've previously done a lot of plumbers, electricians. The cost per click was ridiculous. It was 40, 50. And the only way we could get around that was to target smaller niche areas, looking at CPCs, and then kind of working backwards from there. So kind of really niching down on the nitty gritty of the maths, and then knowing what, or the best way that we could get the best from the budget. So like I said, we were trying to get 10 clicks per day, but we couldn't do that on just having a broader around a certain area. We had to kind of really niche into certain areas or zoom in, reduce that radius that we were targeting. And then from there, then you can then start building out. Remember, you don't have to target 20 miles an area. You could do 10 miles or 5 miles, and then really kind of focus on an area around where you are. And then potentially you can then expand the area. Like you can expand budget, you can change bidding strategy. You can also do that with your targeting. You can have a small area, get some success, and then build that out. Some other strategies. We don't have to do what everyone says we have to do. We can test different aspects. And the key to Google is testing. If you hear something from someone, if I say something, test it. Don't take it as 100%. Test it, because within Google, there's no one way of doing anything. There's different ways that we can approach, and that's why, you know, the few advertisers who actually advertise on Google will tell you different things, because they found a way that works for them, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will work for you. So, you know, you just need to be kind of understanding that testing is the best thing that you can do. And if you can test multiple things, have experiments running, split testing, understanding the metrics, headlines, descriptions, what's working, you leave them. What isn't, you just pause it and you update it. Headlines, descriptions, negative keywords, you're adding in exclusion lists. Test everything. And if somebody tells you there's a way of doing something, just test it. If you're not sure, run an experiment, 50-50 experiment, or 20% of your budget, run it as an experiment. If you're getting already good amount of business coming through, run it as an experiment and see, does it actually work? That's your best way. There's no need for people to stop what they're doing and then just take their budget and just put it onto something else, not sure if it's going to work. Run an experiment. It's simple to do. I have videos on experiments. It takes 5 minutes to run an experiment to get it going, and to then run it for 30, 60 days, and then get the data back. Try it. We just need to, and not just, don't be lazy with your Google advertising. We need to do some work, And another myth is you can just run your Google ads and then leave it. Once it's set up, is leave it. You can't. You have to optimize it. You can run as many automations as you want, but you still need to optimize it. I've seen automations running, and they're just not very good. You can run negative keywords and a lot of other stuff, but you still need to manually go in there and have a look what's going on, and make the difference based on the data that you're seeing. And I think that's the way forward. And with the AI and everything that's going on with AI, it's fantastic. We use AI, absolutely, but I don't rely on AI. And you can see that the simple way to see that within Google Ads is Google targeting the words that you're actually putting in? The chances are they aren't. They're probably showing for relevant terms. Why do you think all the auto replies are turned off? Why do I recommend to turn them off? Is because they put money into Google's pocket, not our pockets. The recommendations, it's they're just putting money into Google. They're showing a lot of stuff that is going to tank your campaign. And I've had it done to me many years ago when I first started off with Google. And again, it's again, we're talking about the AI. We still need to home it in. We still need to make sure that it stays on track, and we need to do that, not the AI. So AI is fantastic. Google's going down that route with AI Max, another fantastic thing that they've brought out. But am I using it? I've tested it, but not really. What they're trying to do, and Meta's the same. They're trying to make life simpler. So hence Meta's brought out Andromeda, where previously we had one campaign, one ad set, and then you had up to 5 or 6 ads, and then you would create another ad set to then have another 5 or 6 ads. Now what they're saying with Andromeda is you can have one campaign, one ad set with lots, up to like 40, 50 ads running in an ad set. The key to that is to make sure you leave the ads alone. And what you'll find is what we found, a little bit off tangent, just leave the ads, don't tinker with them, leave them for a few weeks and just let them perform it. And you might be surprised that they may come back and start performing, but you need to leave them, run a good number of ads, and then the idea was they'll place them. But let's jump back to Google. So yeah, AI Max, what Google's trying to do is make sure that all you provide is a URL, and then they'll write the headlines, descriptions, they'll do everything for you. I'm still not convinced. They're trying to make it easier, but if you know Google Ads, there's lots of things that you still need to do, places you need to go. And even the so-called experts are not doing a lot of people who talk about Google Ads don't really understand Google Ads, and they don't do the basics. And I'm going to say that because I've seen it. They don't do the basics right. Pinning headlines and descriptions, if there's no need to, why would you do that unless it was an industry that was highly regulated? Just misreporting, misunderstanding, miscommunication. We just need to get the basics. The basics, if you do the basics right in Google, it will reward you. If you don't, if you start getting complicated, when I see accounts that are overcomplicated and they don't make sense, then that's when we start to run into trouble. We're getting overlapping. But if we keep the accounts simple structure, we clearly know you, the team, your clients, whoever it is, you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing, then you're going to get the results by doing the simple things right. And it's never the complicated things. And in business, the same. It's never complicated. It's always keeping things nice and simple, straightforward. You're going to get the results. And if you have the understanding, doing simple things like just adding in things like maps, assets, just adding in those assets, doing the weekly optimizations, doing the monthly optimizations. What are the monthly optimizations? Well, knowing when to take a step back. Headlines and descriptions can be done every 4 or 6 weeks, depending on how much data has gone to them. If you've got a bigger budget, it's going to be quicker. If you've got a smaller budget, then we need to give things time to get some data. Everything we're doing within Google should be based around data that's coming through from the ads that we're running. And if we do that based on the data, you've got a better chance of winning in Google, rather than kind of second guessing or watching a video and somebody says do this or do that. Just focus on what you're doing, focus on the metrics, really understand what's coming back. Click-through rate, what does that mean? Conversion rate, what does that mean? What's the auction insights? How many times should I be optimizing? What should I be optimizing? When do I need to take a step back and let Google do its thing? Just lots to do. Tracking, make sure you're checking the tracking. One of the things, one thing that I see a lot of people struggle is broken tracking, and it's just a matter of connecting it back up. It's easy to do. Understanding, if you're running a lead generation, make sure that the lead count is down to once and not many. Again, I've seen this many times by people who knew what they were doing. Um, just do the basics. If you do the basics, you'll be fine. You'll get the results. If you start overcomplicating your Google ads, you're going to struggle. I've just seen it time and time again, and it drives me up the wall. It's like, just keep it basic. And when people start to explain things that don't make sense, the chances are they don't make sense. They're just over analyzing things, and we don't need to do that within Google ads. We just need to keep it simple, understand what's going on, and remember, just enjoy the process. We can, you can have fun with Google. Once you get it right, once you get Google ads right, you can consistently have a good amount of leads, or e-commerce if you're looking to sell stuff, sales or lead generation leads. If you get it right, it will work fantastically for you. But the problem is a lot of people don't get it right, or they're on the verge of getting it right and then they stop, or there's some miscommunication, misunderstanding, or they've got auto replies on, which messes up the campaign. And they're like, oh no, what's just happened with my campaign? So again, it's something I see time and time again. So keep it simple, enjoy the process. Google is fun. Once you start to understand where everything is and the way we can implement, then it can be a fantastic source of income. But we just need to be patient with it, set it up correctly. Give the Google ad account a chance to get going, and it will get going, and it will reward you based upon the way that you optimize it, the way that you've set it up. If you set it up with 3 headlines and 1 description, everything pinned, and you don't need to do that. Why are you doing it? Just stop listening to people with miscommunication and just focus on yourself and have some understanding about how to set up because you're spending money on this. So we need to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to get it right. And that's probably the best thing that I would say for today. Focus on your ads, get the basics right, and the rest will follow.